Hey guys, want to make a quick video talking about a problem that I've noticed when I'm pressing eyelets into my Kydex sheaths, as well as a solution that I've recently discovered that has made a world of difference as far as the problem I was having. And what that problem was specifically was that most of the time I've noticed when flaring, especially these 1/4 inch eyelets, which are a little bit longer than the 3/16 eyelets, I've noticed that the ends will often split on me in either one, sometimes two, or even three places. And you may be able to see just a little bit about what I'm talking about on these 3/16 eyelets. Unfortunately, I couldn't avoid getting a split in those. But it's often magnified much worse in the larger 1/4 inch eyelets, which are a little bit longer. And what I found is actually causing those ends to split like that when I press them in my Arbor press is that the amount of material that's sticking out is just too much for that die to effectively roll over and flare. And just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, this is an untouched eyelet as it comes from the factory, poked through 2 layers of .060 Kydex. And as you can see, we have at least the thickness of the 2 pieces of Kydex sticking past there. And that's just way too much for this die to try to roll over and give a good clean finish look. So as I stated, often what happens is that it just ends up splitting in 1, 2, or I've even seen 3 splits on the end of a flare. So what I decided to try and do in order to remedy that problem is actually take a little bit of that length off on my belt sander. And as you can see on some of these eyelets that I've already modified, I've taken about 25% of the length of that eyelet off, or about half of what's sticking out there. And that gives me almost the thickness of 1 sheet of Kydex sticking past, maybe just a little bit more. And just to give you an example of how that looks when it's rolled, it's looking much better. It's extremely even, very clean, and no splitting or cracking whatsoever. In fact, it almost looks identical to the finished side. And if I had left just a little bit more material on that, I'd have just a little bit wider of a lip. But I'm much preferring this look to the split and cracked look. And it really just takes a very minimal amount of time and effort in order to modify those. And it's definitely worth it, in my opinion. Now, as far as how I do that, just to give you a quick example, without actually doing it, I simply took a piece of 3/16 inch flat stock that I had lying around, drilled a 1/4 inch hole in it to insert my eyelet, and as you can see, I have just a little bit sticking out there. And what I would do, I would then flip on the grinder and just take that little nub off there until it was just about flush with my flat stock, taking care not to grind too far into that flat stock, of course, so that your subsequent eyelets don't get shorter and shorter. But once that's done, just pop it out and stick it in my sheath, press it in my press. And that's what you get as far as the finished product there. Now, one thing I will mention, since you are taking the end off of this, whether you use a file, a belt sander, or what have you, you are taking that little chamfer off. If I can get a focus there, there's just a very slight roundover or slight chamfer on the ends that aid in poking these through the Kydex. You're taking that off, so it will be a little bit harder to get the eyelet through the Kydex if you're using a 1/4 inch hole. You might either want to enlarge your holes just a little bit. It really doesn't take much. Or what I would actually do is stick my eyelet face up on my bottom die there and kind of use that to help guide it into the hole and work it into the Kydex. And it takes a little bit more time, like I said, a little bit more effort, but the finished product, in my opinion, is more than worth it, especially to avoid that splitting and that cracking. So hopefully if any of you guys have found similar issues when making your Kydex sheaths, specifically with flaring eyelets, hopefully that gives you an idea of a solution, and maybe it'll help you in the future not to have split or cracked eyelets. So I just wanted to make that real quick video, giving that little tip to you guys, and definitely appreciate the views. Thanks for watching.